Welcome to the Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast, where each week we're joined by leaders of Guaranteed Irish member businesses to chat about how they sustain jobs, communities and provenance. Supported by FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer. Support, it's what we do.
Hi there, I'm Breed O'Connell, and joining me today is Karl Donnelly, Marketing Director at Bulmers Ireland, to chat to us about how the brand changed cider, the Bulmers Secret Orchard, and becoming Guaranteed Irish members over the next few minutes. Karl, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, Breed. Delighted to be here.
Karl, firstly, tell us about the history of Bulmers. We're all familiar with the brand, obviously, and while we recognise it, but many people don't know the company's full history in terms of its Irish origin.
Yeah, Breed, very quickly, I guess, I'm with the company about 4 years. One of the most iconic Indigenous Irish brands, which was very appealing for me to join the business. And then I guess if you trace back through what Bulmers did for the cider category over a number of years, way before my time, I should add, I guess there probably was kind of very low level, low economic perceptions of the brand. And I guess what Bulmers did for the cider category, not only for the Bulmers brand, but also in general, just for cider category in terms of where it was drank, what the occasion was it was drank in. And a decision made a good number of years ago to stop doing certain SKU types, which were probably more appropriate to drinking at different occasions. And there was a direction that wanted to premiumize the cider category and wanted to premiumize the Bulmers brand in general. And that evolved into what we now know as the pint bottle, and the direction that the brand went from that perspective in terms of introducing that new SKU, and that not only the brand, but I guess that SKU is one of the most iconic, I think, iconic pieces of branding in Irish society at the moment, thankfully.
Well, now, June, as we know, is Guaranteed Irish Food and Drinks Month, and it's a great month for good weather. And I always associate Bulmers with floating around ice and a good sunny afternoon. And that's still more or less the vibe you get off Bulmers cider in particular, isn't it?
It is, and we've had our challenges over the last number of years, but the one thing that the brand has always stood for has been those refreshing occasions.
Refreshing is the word,
and it's that refreshment which the brand is known for. As I mentioned, the kind of Bulmers iconic SKU in terms of the pint bottle. But the challenge for us is to try and bring that to more occasions and not just the sunny weather. For sure. And that's one of the things we're working on.
Mm. And of course, it's always useful on the Christmas ham. That's a really component part of the ingredient. So there's another opportunity
for Bulmers. Exactly, you said it. Yeah.
And one of the things I suppose I love about Bulmers, it's iconically Irish, and that appeals to us here in Guaranteed Irish. But also, I suppose right now it's very cool and hip to be buying local, buying Irish, and Bulmers has really worked on this area. How important is the Irish identity to Bulmers and the Bulmers story?
It's massively important, and I guess when you look at the category that we operate in, we think that's a massive, unique selling point for us. We have our plant in Clonmel that a lot of people know about, hopefully. I think we're employing somewhere around 300 to 400 people. Then they're really important to the local economy. We have a massive sustainability story. One of the beautiful things we encountered on the brand, which was happening very organically, was that it was a nice relationship with the South Tipperary Beekeepers Association down in Clonmel. We wouldn't have the Bulmers brand, the beautiful Bulmers product, if bees didn't pollinate our orchards in Clonmel.
Of course,
so there's a lovely, nice organic story which we brought to life with an off-trade campaign last year. But I guess it's telling stories like that is hopefully communicating Irishness as well, because we're the only cider brand in Ireland that has orchards in Ireland where the apples come from to make the product that we all love. So it's not necessarily about, when we're communicating that, we have to communicate it in a little bit more interesting way to the consumer. And that's why we've done things like that sustainability campaign. And the line that we used at that point in time was Bulmers begins with a B, which was nice and proactive, a nice story.
So
and
clever.
Yeah.
That was really clever. Well done to marketing on that. I have to say I really like that story. So tell me then about the full story about changing the name to Magners outside of Ireland, because there's a conflict there.
Yeah, long story short is the intellectual property around that is the Bulmers brand is owned by C&C Group for the Republic of Ireland only. And then another organisation owns the Bulmers brand outside of Ireland.
Okay.
So the two partners were the Bulmers family and the Magners family that set up the plant in Clonmel and set up the cidery in Clonmel originally way back in 1935. And JP Magner was the originator. So the idea is that the Magners brand is used everywhere outside of Ireland.
And Bulmers retains.
And Bulmers retains in the Republic of Ireland only. But
course.
it's the same product, hopefully everywhere you go, mainly in the UK and Ireland, but there is
Okay, well,
Magners
I'm actually delighted
product.
to get that clarity, because we've had these conversations so often when we're out, and of course a couple of people might have had a few Bulmers and they're saying, no, it's the same, no, it's not, the argument. So we have it now on absolute proof of point that they're the same product, different names for different markets. Good to know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How many countries is Bulmers / Magners exported to now?
We're operating probably somewhere in the region of 20 to 25,
Brilliant.
mainly in kind of expat type environments where
of
you
course.
have people from kind of the UK and Ireland repatriated to. Quite popular in the US, as you can imagine.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, still very big brand in the UK. And then Southeast Asia, and then some of the Mediterranean countries as well. We'd have a pretty large footprint in.
And when you say you have a large footprint in those other countries, particularly the newer countries, the Southeast Asias and Mediterranean, is there much competition for the same type of product out there?
This in terms of cider and
Yes,
cider
yeah.
category. Yeah, I mean, there is global cider producers that would be quite big. Different, I mean, I
Different
don't have
taste,
to
though.
yeah, I mean, different tastes, but it is the Magners brand
Right.
everywhere you go. In some instances there's kind of different look and feel depending on what works in that particular like it's a different look and
It's
feel in
interesting,
Asia
yeah.
as it would be.
And you have
in
to
the
appeal
UK.
to the different
Yeah.
tastes and the different cultures, and I get
Yeah.
that. And out of all the products that come from Ireland, is 100% of them are all the products coming out of Ireland, or do you have other factories around the world as well?
No, for the Bulmers and
Yeah.
Magners brand, everything comes out of the plant in Tipperary.
Amazing, isn't it, to
Yeah.
think that?
Yeah.
And I like the idea of it starting with the B, but I really like the idea that it brings all those jobs to rural Ireland.
Yeah,
really
absolutely,
important.
yeah,
and I assume
massively.
that's hugely welcomed in Tip and places like that, where they're delighted to have that type of local employment.
Yeah, no, it is. And encountered a beautiful story there last summer when I was down at we did a Bulmers Secret Orchard event then where we ran a little mini festival with Gavin James playing in September.
Really successful,
September
if I
last
remember
year.
rightly.
Yeah, but one of our regional sales, to your point, one of our regional sales managers wanted to stay out and wanted to do the glamping experience, and
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering why he wanted to do it, because all the corporate people normally stay in the hotels,
Yeah.
you know. So, but he had told me his father and his grandfather had worked in the plant in Clonmel, and he just thought it was a nice piece of nostalgia, being able to kind of sleep under the stars in the orchards where
Real
his
deal.
family is really entrenched, you know.
It means a lot. And when a business like that goes back so many generations, there's a level of pride attached to it, I'd say, locally. And I think that stands well for Bulmers.
Yeah, and I guess that's something that we need to be cognizant of when we're working in the marketing team, because we try and get down there as often as we can, but we're based in Dublin. But the pride in the brand locally, you really feel it when you're down there with the people in Clonmel. And it's something that's hugely important for us to make sure that we tell the story of the heritage, we tell the story of the iconic brand that Bulmers is when we're embarking on the marketing activity that we engage in as well.
And And what better way to tell it than through Guaranteed Irish, actually, because it's so aligned with our own values here in terms of jobs, community and provenance. Okay, so right now we're just going to take a quick break to hear from some of our members.
Guaranteed Irish members continue to sustain jobs and communities across Ireland, like Emerald Park. Enjoy treasures big and small this summer for a season of fun, from the Cuchulainn Coaster and Viking Voyage to the Dino Dash and Zoo and everything in between. Treasure awaits for the whole family at Emerald Park this summer. Pre-book now at emeraldpark.ie and save up to 20% off. Guaranteed Irish, altogether better.
I'm really interested in your sustainability practices. You've really taken those very seriously and you're really rolling out a good strategy behind that for the company. Tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I'm from CNC Group, and then specifically what we're doing with the plant in Clonmel. We have a solar panel system that is I think it's one of the largest in Ireland. We're on our way to be a carbon neutral plant. I don't think we're that far away from it. I think the objective is 23 now. I think the objective is to be carbon neutral by 25 or 26.
Right.
And that's the solar energy helps that.
Yeah.
But what really helps it as well is the fact that we have all the orchards in Clonmel, because that enables us to get a lot of, I guess, credit into the system in terms of that sustainable story. But as I said to you earlier, from a brand perspective, and then how you want to tell that story, we're not necessarily engaging in the Bulmers Begins with a B campaign again this year, but it is basically a pillar upon which the brand will operate, and we will tell that story and bring that story to life through different mechanisms. The Bulmers Secret Orchard campaign, which I referred to previously, that's continuing this year. So that is an event and a little mini festival that we're ramping up this year, and we'll have again in September. But it's in the orchards in Clonmel, and again it's kind of telling that story. One of the other practices we engage in, we have a returnable bottle in the on-trade, so all of that is recycled. The bottle that hopefully people enjoy in the on-trade and on nice sunny occasions like today, but that is then taken by the public, and we pick it up again and we bring it back and we treat it and wash it and et cetera, and put it through the correct treatments to be able to bring that back again.
That's actually great, yeah. And in terms of, I suppose, the more recent history, since you joined yourself, you've really changed and reverted back to some of the heritage pieces with the gold foil and the pint bottle and things like that. And you spent a lot on the brand investment-wise, a lot in the last few years. Why did you decide to do that? Because obviously CNC is a big group. Why did they decide to do that with Bulmers? Where did they say, God, they're missing a trick here? There's an opportunity here to change and grow the brand bigger and better.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably fair to say the business got a little bit complacent with the brand over a period of time, probably in and around kind of 2017, 18, 19, and probably didn't invest. And when you talk about the pride of the people, I think people lost that pride when they didn't see the beautiful ads the brand was known for on TV.
And the ads are beautiful. I have to credit you with that.
But that's not, now in fairness, they're probably gone back years before me, you know.
But they are beautiful. They capture them beautifully in terms of the Secret Orchard as well. Really nice ads out there. So
ultimately, that complacency led to probably a little bit of underinvestment in the brand, and then there's been a lot of competition come into the cider category. So there was a need to respond, and thankfully the business backed us in terms of the marketing team to respond. We've had some really good in terms of the upweighted levels of investment, but then that has to manifest itself in a good brand story.
Of course,
we took a step back, as you said. We changed, the brand identity was changed in around 2015-16, and probably lost its way a little bit. All that, the green and gold iconography, the gold foil, as you mentioned, was taken off the pint bottle. And that lost that heritage and that connection with the past and connection with history, which is massively important for a brand like Bulmers. So decisions made over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, and to bring that back, bring the iconography back, reinvest in the brand again, and that's going to continue for the foreseeable future, and bring the nice kind of brand stories to life that we've talked about.
And actually, it's interesting. You're a bit like Guaranteed Irish yourselves and Bulmers. You've taken the best of the old and modernised it, and you're going very new and cool with your festivals. And you've one coming up in Leopardstown, haven't you?
Yeah, we've a great series with Bulmers live at Leopardstown. 8 gigs over the course of the summer. Thursday night. And the way we've approached that partnership is really to try and enhance the horse racing fans' experience. So it's not just a badging exercise for us.
Yeah.
So we want to work with Horse Racing Ireland, with the great people at Leopardstown, to be able to bring an additional experience beyond just the horse racing. So some cool acts over the course of Thursday nights, really popular. Thankfully, when the weather holds up, it's a really cool night. They are kicking in now in the middle of June.
Great.
And they'll run right through to the middle of August every Thursday night. So
that's brilliant.
Lots to look forward to there.
So what's in the bag for the rest of the year then, once we get out of festival season, Karl?
Yeah, well, what we're doing, it's Bulmers live at Leopardstown, and then we have the Secret Orchard events. The Bulmers Secret Orchard events are really focused on the on-trade, and it's really important for us to work with key on-trade accounts to be able to help them drive footfall on certain nights. So we're doing that with Bulmers Secret Orchard, and then we kick in with that event I talked about in September again. In terms of the rest of the year, it's really continuing to focus on some of the basics and some of the fundamentals, and making sure our commercial strength and our commercial market share growth continues. It's us supporting our sales teams both from an on and off trade perspective. We have a nice campaign with Bulmers Light coming at the back end of the summer as well, which is very important. And then there will be Christmas activity. You mentioned earlier the nice piece we did with John Relihan last year, the celebrity chef, and the work we did with him around Christmas time and the Bulmers ham concept. That's kind of in the kitchen at the moment in terms of the direction we go at Christmas. So we're thinking about that. And whether or not that's the same direction or not is still up for discussion.
When I think of Christmas in our house growing up, and both my parents were teetotalers, but the one thing that was always purchased was the big pint bottle of Bulmers for the ham. And they used to be very generous with that now for teetotalers. But it was a delicious ham, so I say bring that back. But there's so much scope for it in cooking, isn't there?
There's multiple different recipes. The obvious one is the ham, but we did a nice mulled cider as well, which is a little bit different, but very festive, nice kind of tones of cinnamon and nice Christmassy tones as well. So there's a lot of scope.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you've a lot of other irons in the fire in terms of other distribution of other products. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, Bulmers is massively important to us and contributes significantly to C&C Group's profits. But we do have other brands. We own the Five Lamps brand, which we own all the intellectual property around that. That's a local brand. That beer is
craft beer.
Yeah. Well, craft beer potentially was a craft beer, originated as a craft beer, but we're trying to evolve that and take it away from craft and make it a little bit more accessible in terms of its taste profile for people that like a lighter tasting lager as well. That's brewed in a microbrewery on Camden Street, but there's also brewing of that done in Clonmel too, and that's all another nice kind of local Irish story. And we have big plans to grow that brand, and we see a lot of potential with that brand. Quite excited by it. And then we also have our licensed partners with Budweiser, Corona, and San Miguel. Just recently launched a rollout of Corona Draft, which is going particularly well, especially in and around Dublin, Galway and Cork, and there's beautiful new countermount which people see. And Corona has been a growing brand for us over the last number of years, just with the bottle SKU, but just with the Irish consumer like and draft, and it been such a big important aspect of the Irish on-trade. We think it's a great opportunity there as well.
Okay, so where does Guaranteed Irish membership then fit into all of this, and what prompted you to join actually?
Well, a lot of what we just talked about. I think one of our unique selling points and one of our distinctive stories to tell as a brand is the Irishness. Yeah. So to be able to work with you guys and we think that massively and helps the story both from a C&C perspective, but also from a Bulmers brand perspective. We are the only cider brand that is able to, the only mainstream cider brand. There is local craft cider production facilities which probably would be able to claim the Irishness, but in terms of where we're produced, the orchards that we have in Ireland, the natural apple juice that we have in our product, and to be able to work with you guys and to be able to evolve that story and be able to tell that story, I think is hugely important. And then also, I guess there's that aspect of it in terms of the consumer and what the consumer sees, and for us to be able to tell that story. But there's also the other businesses that you guys work with, and to be able to form relationships with them and to be able to learn how they work, and some of the nice informal sessions that you guys run, to be able to facilitate those, I think is massively important, and learn what they're doing either from a marketing or commercial perspective is fantastic too.
Well, one of those, it's a very nice cue and lead in for me because one of those is the upcoming food and drinks event, which will be held in Cork on the 15th of this month. And we look forward to discussing and meeting our food and drinks producers there, where there's all kinds of opportunities for partnerships and further development and networking and trading between the businesses, which is really important. So looking forward to having Bulmers well represented at that, Karl. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
If you want to learn more about Bulmers, we will leave a link to their website in the show notes. Thank you as always for listening, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening to this podcast today.
The Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast, sponsored by FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer. Support. It's what we do.